The thing that strikes me about living in New York City, really any city, but New York in particular, because it's not a car city, is that New York City has so many rich people and wealthy neighborhoods, but you can just walk anywhere. So there are neighborhoods like, Soho, Tribeca, Battery Park, where there's just concentrations of fabulously wealthy people who live in big buildings they pay millions of dollars for. And yet, you can just walk through Soho anytime you want. So, what you end up with is a rich person who has like a $20 million house, and they step outside, and right in front of their building, there is homeless people. And, the chaos of the city is taking place right there. And I mean, rich people in big cities, they do complain, and a lot of their complaints are, listened to by the people in power, by the city government. But there's only so much the government can do because the sidewalk is a public place. So what can police really do in that situation besides maybe move somebody down the street? But you are in public, and everybody has a right to be in public. So these rich people, what they end up doing, because they want to live in the big city and get the, amenities of living in a big city. But they are increasingly trying to separate themselves from the general public, from the riffraff. So they go to, private clubs. There's a lot more, it feels like a 1920s thing or something, but there's private clubs popping up all over the city where, you pay a membership fee. There's a big security guard at the door who's only letting in certain people. And then once you get in that club, you're among other wealthy people, and the riffraff is being kept out. These people send their kids to private schools so they can be among other wealthy elites. And, they eat at nice restaurants, places that you can't walk into unless you're dressed a certain way. And, unless you clearly have money. It's for people who deserve to be in a certain place. So they are able to build this sort of ecosystem around themselves of wealth and separation. But they do still live in New York City. So you can't always be in that bubble because you do have to be on the street at some point, and you're going to encounter that homeless guy, and you're going to see the protest that's going by in front of your apartment, and you're still going to deal with the uncomfortability of living in a public place amidst everybody else. What these people are looking for is not freedom, really. It's control. What they want is to be in a controlled environment where they know what to expect. That's what people want deep down. Even if they say they want freedom, what they really want is predictability. They want to be able to live their lives and know what to expect. They want to know when they open their door and they walk outside that nobody's going to bother them. And they can look around and see what it is they want to see instead of being met with the chaos of big city life and the disorder that comes along with that. What these people want is really, it's the airport writ large. I think that is the fantasy of a certain kind of wealthy American, is living in a very large version of the airport. If you think about it, the airport really is the last place in modern society where you just don't see homeless people. Because, you need a ticket to get past security. So once you get to the airport and you get through, TSA and everything, and you end up by the gates, that is kind of its own little private city. And I mean, you are technically still in whatever city you're in, and you're in America. But when you're in the airport, you're in kind of a new place that has its own logic and its own feel to it, which is distinct from the outside world. The airport is the only place they have to tell you not to leave your luggage unattended at the airport. They make that announcement every 10 minutes over the loudspeaker because if they didn't make that announcement and they didn't tell people not to just walk away from their stuff, people would do it all the time. Because the airport is a place, there's safety without trust. It's not safe to leave your stuff unattended at the airport because people at the airport are good, but because everybody at the airport understands that we're in a surveillance state. There is security everywhere, there's cameras everywhere, and we all have to be, I wouldn't say our best behavior, because clearly some people get stressed out, but we all know that we are somewhat restricted at the airport. You know that consequences are severe and swift, and you have very little recourse. If you get in trouble at the airport, there's no talking your way out of it. There's no arguing and pointing out laws. It's like, no, once you get busted, you're out. And that no-fly list is real. So everybody is operating under the kind of shared understanding that this is a different kind of place. But there are people who feel that and feel relaxed by it. This is the one place where they can kind of, their shoulders can, you can breathe out. Because you're at the airport, you're not going to see, there's no protests at the airport. There's no uncontrolled groups at the airport. The airport itself is designed to not even be a place. Every airport is designed to be kind of a bland corporate version of the world. It's mostly chain restaurants. There's not like, there's a little bit of dirtiness just from regular people, but it's not like the rest of the city. Things are basically orderly and clean at the airport because you're just meant to pass through. They're almost designed to not be remembered because they're like, it's a liminal space. It is a place that is between things. It's between being in the city and being on the airplane. But that space at the airport, that is what people are looking for. If there was a big version of the airport, which included parks and included open streets with stores and, university or something, and like a nice big lake, that's what a certain type of wealthy conservative would actually enjoy. That is their vision of utopia, which is kind of an authoritarian state. It's their own miniature Singapore or, Dubai or something. That's what these people are looking for. A place they can go to where they know that everybody has been pre-vetted and that there is a certain level of wealth that is required to even be in someone's presence. I think this leads to a certain kind of, there are two types of conservatives. And I think the airport is a good way to understand the split in the conservative movement and why I think it's kind of inherently unstable in its current form. There's two types of conservatives overall. There are what I consider to be airport conservatives. These are the sort of libertarian, Peter Thiel, tech bro type of conservative. The types who are secretly funding the Republican Party, and they are the wealthy arm of, the conservative movement. But what they're really searching for is low taxes. They are libertarian don't touch my gigantic store of wealth conservatives. And these are all very highly educated, technocrat types. They all went to Stanford or some sort of Ivy League school, and they exist at a very high strata of life. They probably don't even go to the airport. These are like private jet people. But these are rule followers. These are people whose vision of the world is of tight control. They are the owners of the surveillance state. These are the people who want everybody to follow the rules as they see them. The classic conservative, which I'd consider to be like the pickup truck conservative, that's the other group. These are people who don't want rules. These are the rural conservatives who see the government as a threat existentially. They just don't want. These are people who argue against seatbelt laws. These are people who want to ride a motorcycle with no helmet. This is classic don't tread on me conservative, who just, they want to be free to shoot off their guns and live whatever lifestyle they want in rural America. Those are the people, the classic conservative, the catchphrase is don't tread on me, which is basically don't tell me what to do. Let me do whatever I want within the boundaries of reasonable law. Whereas the airport conservative, their motto is tread on everybody else. They want stronger police. They want stronger law enforcement, and they want more rules as long as they don't restrict their own movement, as long as they don't lead to higher taxes for the top 1% of earners, because that is existentially dangerous to them. These are distinct groups, and prior to like the 1980s, these used to be completely separate politically. But it wasn't until, Nixon and then later Reagan and now Trump that these two groups of conservatives got meshed together. Trump in particular is the perfect embodiment of this coalition, in the sense that he is a billionaire real estate elite who somehow can communicate with pickup truck guys and somehow make them think that he's on their side, that somehow this billionaire who owns a private club in Florida is somehow on the side of the guy in Alabama somewhere who's driving his pickup truck to go watch football. But, as you might be able to tell from the way I'm describing it, this is a shaky coalition, because while they are together right now, their vision of an ideal society is incompatible with each other. The way to tell what type of conservative somebody is ask them, would you want to live at the airport? Does that sound desirable to you? I would imagine the pickup truck conservative would say, absolutely not. That sounds horrible. I got to walk around knowing there's a million cameras on me and everybody's telling me what to do and not to play music on my Bluetooth speaker. Hell no, I'm not living there. Whereas the airport conservative would hear all of these restrictions and think, finally, I can go somewhere and relax and not have to hear somebody's Bluetooth speaker playing country music. And that's why going forward, I think in the next coming decade, couple decades, you're going to see this coalition start to fracture. Because right now, the thing that's holding them together is Trump. Is the fact that the airport conservative needs the pickup truck conservative for votes. They need the populist vote. And the pickup truck conservative needs the airport guys for funding. That's where all of Trump's money is actually coming from, is Peter Thiel, is Silicon Valley. But right now, even though they are together in one political coalition, the airport conservatives are building their own cities right now. It's happening in Honduras. It's happening in, I think, Panama and in the Gulf states. They are building these separate little worlds for themselves where they control the gate and they can control who gets in. And they're not letting in those pickup truck guys because they're not part of the team. So I think what's going to happen in these next coming decades is the airport city is going to become a real place. And the airport conservatives are going to start moving themselves and all of their resources into controlled environments. Basically private communities. But not like the kind of gated communities you have now, but actual cities with full infrastructure that you never have to leave. What's interesting, though, about this is that because the airport conservatives are going to leave behind the pickup truck conservatives, the pickup truck guys in, the rural parts of the country, they're just going to be out there. And they're not even going to notice at first that they got abandoned because they already exist in a separate physical space than the, urban elites. So when the break happens, they're not even going to realize it. It's not going to be until later when they realize that the funding for their, rural parts of the country, it's going to dry up. And that's when things are really going to get bad for the lower middle class conservative voters. And by that point, it's going to be too late. There's going to be a similar split, I think, on the left. Not as soon, but once it becomes clear that the airport conservatives are building their own world, their own private cities, you're going to see a split in the left between the PMC, professional managerial class, and the poor parts of the, left coalition, which is the working class. Right now, they are kind of put together just socially. They're in a coalition. But when it becomes clear that the world is collapsing and things are no longer safe in the regular world, you're going to see that PMC class also go to the airport cities. And they're going to join the airport conservatives in these nice glass airport cities where everything is controlled and everybody's safe. The great irony of all this is that once these airport cities are complete, the airport city politically is not going to be conservative. You're going to end up with a city that actually has center-left politics. You're going to end up with a big airport San Francisco. And that's going to be the whole world. It's going to be airport San Francisco and Mad Max everywhere else.